Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Board of Police Commissioners of Halifax Regional Municipality meeting for October 2nd, 2024. Before we get into, first I'll do the land acknowledgement, which is the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this territory and recognizes that we're all treaty people. Hope you all had a good treaty day yesterday. So before we go into a few new items, I do want to acknowledge that I was able to attend, along with a number of our policing members here today, a celebration of Cadet Thomas Ivany, who sadly passed during his time at Depot, RCMP Depot. His family gathered at the Tremont Park and in recognition of his life, placed a plaque at a beautiful tree. We were able to share some remarks and certainly some fellowship and support and love for the family. We're very, very well attended by both services that we have, HRP and RCMP. We had fire there as well. We had national RCMP representation and family, of course, of Thomas, who I think were very comforted to know that his family, although he did not finish through the cadet program, the family of policing is there wrapping their arms around his family. And I know that was acknowledged how the support from the RCMP for the family's journey through from start to finish, really from being here and getting news and traveling to Regina for all of that ensued, that they couldn't have been better cared for, was their words. So that I know that was very much appreciated. Moving forward today, we are going to take the time to as well acknowledge the dedication and contribution that two of our commissioner members have offered this board. Certainly before, for I think in two of their terms, they have served. Did you serve two council? Three, Lisa? Two terms on council as well, Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Blackburn. So their contribution to policing and the discussions around public safety and all of those were very much appreciated and huge contributors at the council chamber, but they also served here on the board. And I would like to offer them each an opportunity to say just a few remarks and of whatever their nature is. But I want to express that very much from this board, the appreciation for your contribution. Certainly, while Gavin and I and Greg have been on the board, we're the juniors, and for the first time for you, Gavin, to be a junior. We hear all the time about his age. So with that, I'm going to offer the floor to Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, and I'm not trying to follow Lisa, so that's why I put my hand up very quickly. I had to follow Lisa yesterday, and I'll do it again. I learned my lesson. I didn't have anything planned today to say, but thank you for giving me the opportunity. And it's been a true honor to be on the Police Commission. I don't even know how long it's been, but it's been a while that I've been a member of the Police Commission, and an honor. And 3 chiefs, had the opportunity to work with them, and through many difficult times, but also some really great times. Thinking of being in the community with the chiefs, and even the growth I have done as a person, getting over my own biases around policing, and growing up in the Northern Halifax, Goddard Street, Uniacke Square. I had a difficult relationship with police, but to come on the council and be on the commission for as long as I have been, and to build true relationships and friendships, I think it's been one personal growth moment for me, but also an honor and a pleasure, because we've done some really great work. And also for me to have the experience I have with the RCMP, because RCMP is not within the area that I represent and I've grown up in, but being on the commission, I've had the opportunity to make some great relationships with the RCMP as well. So thank you for your service, and the new chief, Donnie, who I've known for a long time, you know, my family. And also I'll give a quick shout out to Mr. Dean, who it's full circle because years ago, me, Dean, and Holly Thomas, is Holly Thomas detective now? Sergeant. We together in partnership with the community response office in UNAC Square, we painted a recording studio. And, you know, again, that bias of we got police here painting a studio for youth. But, you know, it's just, and to now see Dean where you are and Holly and to be here as council. So, you know, it's just been an honor. I'm really thankful, and thank you to our current chair for the work that you've done and our members past and present. So yeah, it's true honor, and I'll be sad to go, and I probably won't be watching at home. So have fun. I might pay attention a little bit here and there, but don't expect me to show up to any meetings. And yeah, so just thank you to everybody, CEO for your work, and Josh for your work as well, and Bill and everybody else. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I promise no slide deck. You forgot to mention too, Commissioner Smith, former chair of the board, and thank you for your service in that role, because you know, this Board of Police Commission is probably the board that has made the most impact on me during my time here, also the most challenging. But at the same time, I feel like I've been a part of real change in how policing is done in HRM. During my time on the board, we've taken steps towards reform. I've witnessed new attitudes towards public consultation, and it's been exciting to see a different approach to policing altogether. It's been an honor to learn from some of the best law enforcement minds in the country. The establishment of the Public Safety Office has been especially satisfying for me as we move towards a more Pelian approach to policing. And I want to say thank you to each and every man and woman who puts on a law enforcement uniform in HRM. Your dedication, your service, and your sacrifice continues to awe me. Thank you to the police union for your willingness to work together for change. I've really enjoyed our conversations and our work, and I know that you are dedicated to that change. To the chiefs, thank you for your professionalism and your guidance. You know, no question from me was ever stupid. You always were responsive to requests. And, you know, to be honest, the relationship between HRP and RCMP has never been better. It has never been better. And I leave this seat more hopeful than ever about policing in the municipality. So thank you all so very, very much. Thank you to our incredible staff, our legal team that keep us between the ditches, as they say. And Kathy, as always, thank you for your incredible guidance. Madam Chair, it has been an absolute honor. I've watched you take on this role and eat it up, just completely eat it up. You have done amazing work and continue to do amazing work for this board, and I know that you are committed to seeing real policing change in this city. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Whew, kind of made me emotional on that one. Okay, so with that, if I could ask that Commissioner Blackburn and Commissioner Smith come forward. Kathy, did you want to say a few words before I did that? No, okay. And receive some certificates, tokens of our appreciation for each of you.
So this means we don't have to come back later on.
No, you don't have to come back.
Wow, you guys are prepared.
This
Good job, Chief.
It says, they both say similar, Halifax Board of Police Commissioners extends sincere appreciation to Commissioner Lisa Blackburn and Commissioner Lindell Smith for your contribution to the Board of Police Commissioners during your tenure. Your dedication, passion for policing, and commitment to the public is appreciated. So that one's for you. Thank you. And this, Lindell, that's for you.
Very much.
Nice. I want to hug.
Yes.
That's awesome. We'll miss you.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, I miss you too.
Let's get a little picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next following that, we have both the chiefs would like to acknowledge our commissioners who are leaving as well.
No, just obviously, we get to today. I'll just echo the remarks that have already been made. So, on behalf of there's up to make the presentation to Commissioner Blackburn. We'll come over here as well. This bag is huge.
My son in here.
I'll just make a brief comment if I may, and many things have been said already, but, you know, true service comes from the heart. And that heart was on full display in Councilor Lindell Smith, comments that are reported to the council. And the leadership, certainly displayed as the chair and service is of the highest level. And I hope moments like this recognize and reinforce that service is so valued. And not enough people today put their hands up and they give themselves. And you having so many different ways to talk with the bridge of between communities and system professional dealings and social quality for us and so on and so forth. So, Lindell, not because you're on the board of Harvard, but thank you very much. And I trust this program to be also. So, So one of those rainy people that we sometimes come across is someone like Lisa Blackburn, who, when we spend time around, just opens her arms to welcome all of us. So Lisa, with your voice and you, and particularly in nursing areas, I know that the whole team is deeply touched by your devotion to community and calling out for us to be better in public safety. So on behalf of all of us, nursing people hiring, and so is Donnie.
Wow. Thank you so much. I've been very special place in my office. Yes.
You still have one more meeting to get through, and then we hope that you will go and on to your next journey and impart all your wisdom and your experience here for the better of the public, of course, and share your beautiful souls with them. Next, we have Chief Christie would like to offer some remarks to the board on the occasion of this being his last day as an active member of the RCMP. He is retiring, so we'll now offer that opportunity for you, Chief Christie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Before I go any farther, I want to acknowledge to my colleague, Chief McLean, that the 177 pages of my speech were cut down to 122 by the CAO, and were cut down, Donnie, to 92 by the Chair. So with that, I'll always be there watching. Chair, thank you for allowing my closing remarks. I've completed 34 years service, and today's participation will be one of my last public official acts prior to vacating my position. My last official day will actually be a week tomorrow before I vacate my position. As such, the Halifax Regional Municipality will have a role in the selection of the future Chief Superintendent position. I remain in close contact with the Chief Administration Officer, as does the Commanding Officer, in respect to that staffing process, very much and similar to what then Chair Lindell Smith did some years ago. A few personal remarks. Having served in Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, British Columbia, the Northwest Territories, and more recently again, Nova Scotia, my family and I have shared perhaps more than our fair share of quote moves. In fact, some would call me a sticker mountie. For those of you who don't know what a sticker mountie is, well, anybody that moves in a moving truck, every time they move, they label every single item. They label, one year it might be green. So your chair is green number 2 before loading. The next time you move with the moving truck, it might be orange that they pull out, or yellow. So sticker mounties are often those who move an awful lot of time. And even today, if we go in to find a box or we find something from years ago, we'll still see the colors of stickers from 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 moves. And therein lies the crux of our next family transition or phase, which is to create a home in the truest sense, not merely a landing place, not merely for my wife and I, a place where we store a lot of boxes and the kids come home and they're there, but really a corner where the Christmas tree can be for year after year after year. A home where my wife and I can hopefully create family space and memories. You know, looking at departing is not easy. Some of you recently were at the Oak Island Powpom, or the event referenced Cadet Ivamy. You have a sense of the bond that we all share, and in a few moments I'll introduce some of the people next to me. But mentors such as Ted Upshaw, who was the first African Canadian commissioned officer, people like Alphonse McNeil, Daryl Harvey, Tony Green, Lauren McDonald, friends like Darren Campbell, who I went to high school with. And we're both generational Mounties in the fact that our fathers served. And notwithstanding after school going in sort of different directions, but we were together for many years, we were sworn into the RCMP on the exact same day in 2 different provinces within an hour of each other. And through our career, whether he's been in British Columbia or Ottawa, I too have mirrored that in some strange way of connection. So Darren, who is posted overseas in Jordan, you are always in my thoughts. So for all the mentors and the folks, such as the folks to my right, who I'll introduce in a minute, I'm truly grateful because someone like me only has the experiences because of the team. After 34 years of habit, custom, and perhaps even discipline, now is a new era for my wife and I. Please permit me to acknowledge my wife, Karen, daughters Hannah, Grace, and son Christian, because they inspire me. I can but hope to be blessed with more time with them in the coming months and years ahead. Simply said, they are now amazing adults in their own right. More than once, they have been a compass speaking into my life, making course corrections. With one in New Brunswick, one in Australia, and the United Kingdom, I remain proud of their achievements. My wife, well, I hope in some small way, I can repay all the support through those 12 and a half moves. The best rank I have, even though I'm fairly senior in the RCMP, is dad or husband. And notwithstanding all the discipline and the years of service, that's what we have to strive to be at the end of the day. Before going farther, I'd like to take just a minute to introduce all the folks with me as they represent the team. And very much like Geese, while I may have been 2 years ago at the front of the V, more and more I am falling behind and the team beside me is leading. And I would suggest to you that leaders find space and time for people to grow into. And the team beside me has taken the vision of transformation and they have adopted it, and they're leading the change, not me anymore. If I may, Jeff Mitchell, of course, hardest job in the RCMP in Nova Scotia. Corey Bushell, working closely around collaboration with the municipality. Amanda Brown, and you might get a sense there's some Newfoundland connections here. Amanda Brown, who's the EA and sort of connection for everything. Mr. Daryl Harvey is just an extraordinary, accomplished member with a master's in public administration and sort of an unmatched skill in terms of his knowledge. John Berger, who I'm convinced could put a Tom Hardy movie in terms of investigating. There's nothing that he can't investigate. He's got that all figured out. Just a wonderful contribution to CID. John, thank you. Guy Tremblay for always having the really rare presence to lead everything from fires to hurricanes to even emceeing the tree that was planted last weekend. En français as well. Okay. Don Moser, just a phenomenal addition to the team. Lyndon Morrison, who's just been stalwart and just been such a dependable person in hard times and good times. And he has served North as well. Before I go farther, there's many others that aren't here, but it's because of that team that I have some confidence around your future model. I would submit that the importance of the Transformation Office is a significant requirement for the municipality. As your group is all too well aware, day-to-day pressures and realities impede change. The fact is, every day, every minute, there's all sorts of day-to-day calls, whether they're streets parked or blocked or bomb threats, etc. Just as the HRM or the municipality would hire a project manager for a complex or costly paving venture, or an investment banker funding a costly apartment complex would seek a general duty contractor, both positions, contractor, project manager, I think speak to coordinating, following through, and facilitating the desired end state. An end state based on the scope or project mandate, which is fully explored in the 450 pages and more recently reduced down to the 2 or 3 pages before you. I personally believe establishing the Transformation Office will bring a degree of focus or structure to important conversations or decisions in a more coordinated way. It will simply said assist the board, HRM, and CO accordingly. In respect to your role in the BOPC, let me express my sincere and profound thanks for your service and passion to oversee policing. It is not like this everywhere in the country. It is not like this everywhere in the country where passionate people come forward to guide police service delivery. You should take pride in that. I commend you for holding to account and working with administration, police leadership, and police partners what your vision is. It's a high calling. I hope you have found it rewarding, and I continue to applaud the board's work. As I conclude, I will leave you with 3 comments. And no, I'm not running for mayor as one of the 72 candidates. First, I believe in a dual model or integrated model or whatever model you choose for policing. With the caveat, you examine the options and make informed decisions. However, there is a benefit, I professionally believe, to the foundational efforts so many have achieved and committed to. And today I look at the skill sets of acting chief, to my right, Andrew and Dean Simmons and Donnie McLean, fine police leaders, fine. And the agency, Joanne and the research team, just extraordinary. There is a benefit, I professionally believe, to that foundation, and I believe you are entering a new time of renewal, a time of embracing possibilities. The RCMP team behind me, which I have introduced, speaks to that. Their passion shines. It's been an honor to work with each of you and the other 250 volunteers and employees in Halifax Regional Detachment. Increasingly, their expertise and passion results in the daily collaboration with public safety and other partners to meet the needs of Haligonian. They are leading, and as I introduce more and more, I am following. The last topic is change. Change is a powerful and natural element of life. It opens up a world of promise. And again, we can take strength from change, but it can be concerning, frightening. But once we take that step, I'm sure that Councillor Smith's and Councillor Blackburn's future will be equally as rewarding and some other door. And if I could tell one story before I conclude my remarks. Every day we see police agencies and first responders serving others, whether it's Knox Alone or mental health. I continue to ask that the board consider mental health as one of its priorities, as we heard from mothers who are continuing to advocate on behalf of the health risk of their former dependents who may now be of legal age. It's a role that the board is uniquely suited to fill. Sometimes operational people can't fix a big system, but the board can advocate for that. As I close out my service with a line that I learned from retired Staff Sergeant Edward Bolton Christie, who kept on his desk a certain saying. He wore a uniform such as mine from 1946 to 1979. In fact, he was a young man from Nova Scotia at that time that wasn't tall enough. And yet, in his mind, he had such a passion to join the RCMP. So what would a young man to do in the middle of the 1945 period? He would go to the closet and he would stretch. And either through sheer perseverance or not, repeatedly after 4 or 5 or 6 trips to the local doctor closed his eyes and signed off him as meeting the height requirement. Little did I know what that decision would be, as he was my father. He joined the musical ride for a short time, then later returned to Newfoundland, New Brunswick, and would often visit Nova Scotia. He had this on his desk. I said to the man at the gate, "Give me a light to tread into the unknown." The man at the gate answered, "Put thine hand in the hand of God, and that shall be to thee safer than any light and better than any known way." I believe as a leader that came here, my objectives and what I can offer you in Halifax Regional Detachment are more or less complete. It is now a time for renewal. The new superintendent Staff Sergeant Major based on recognition and some of the things that we're doing today. The new Chief Superintendent are imminent and will round out the team, and a fantastic team with the HRP with new insights and new vitality. That foretells an exciting 2025. Thank you sincerely. Merci beaucoup. Walawan Masicho for allowing me to complete my career, however humble, with you. It's been a high honor. I wish you, your family, all first responders, the administration, the municipality, and my colleagues in public safety the very best in the months and years ahead. Because isn't that what we should wish for one another? And isn't that what we should wish for the optimism of the future? Thank you for your support to the 240 or 50 employees and volunteers of Halifax Regional Detachment. And on behalf of the incredible employees who make up HRD, it's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Wow, I have more that I'd like to offer, but I'm going to offer the floor right now to the CAO, Kathy O'Toole.
Thank you, Chair Kent. I will take you up on the opportunity to speak this time. Chief Superintendent Christie and I started our roles at the same time. So I was starting as CAO for the municipality when he was starting as Chief Superintendent for the Halifax detachment of the RCMP. And we have worked well together during that period. And there's a few leadership moments that I really think need to be recognized. And Chief Superintendent Christie has brought a leadership style to this role that the organization, the broader municipal organization, really did need. He has been truly collaborative. He has been open to policing transformation. He has been supportive of moving towards a more integrated police service, and that has really assisted us in terms of helping us move forward. The other leadership moments I want to recognize during the Upper Tantallon wildfire, Jeff was everything, everywhere, all at once. He was out on the front lines, checking in with his members. He was at the Incident Command Center. He was visiting the EMO Center and constantly checking on people to make sure they were okay, they had what they needed to do their job, and helping us chart new paths as we were figuring out how to navigate through that very unprecedented emergency. And on a personal note, I tremendously appreciate the support that you provided to the municipality during that period. The other two things that stand out for me is our internal task force on homelessness. Chief Superintendent Christie has been a member who has attended that working group and has really helped the municipality develop a much more nuanced, sophisticated, and empathetic approach to how we deal with the homeless population that are within our community, and was very helpful in arranging for our leadership, our Executive Director of Community Safety and some others, to visit other jurisdictions, meet with RCMP and municipal leadership in other jurisdictions that were a little bit farther ahead than us in terms of dealing with the challenges posed by homelessness encampments. The other unprecedented thing that Chief Superintendent Christie has done is navigated a lot of unknown situations. For example, helping the family of Cadet Thomas Ivany, helping us navigate how you support a family through that situation. And it was something that there was no playbook for. A cadet passing away while during training at Depot is a bit of a new and unusual situation. So we appreciate very much the flexibility, the innovation, the collaboration, and the teamwork that you've brought to the role. You'll certainly be very hard to replace, and you will certainly be missed.
Thank you, Kathy. I want to echo much of what has been said, certainly from Kathy, and I know that you've heard from other members within the municipality, members of a collaborative team, whoever they might be. But I just want to say on behalf of the board that you will it's been an honor working with you, Jeff. You have been a friendly, stable source of information and support, and a stability when some things felt rather wobbly. On a personal level, I have had the pleasure of growing up in a family where my dad, who has recently passed, gave 36 years to justice reform for young offenders. And I knew then that he was imparting something in me that was about taking care of each other. And coming into my political career throughout my life, over 20 some years, I have had the distinct honor of working with many, many RCMP officers, RCMP members, HRP members, and I truly can't, I can't, names are right up there like Gord Burnett, Daryl Beaton, Tamu Bracken, Peter Marshall. Like, there are so many, and I know that Daryl recognizes a lot of those. But Chief Christie, Jeffrey Christie, you have often described, and this is behind the scenes, hopefully I'm not telling tales, have characterized yourself as a misfit. And I know why you were doing that, but I need to tell you, and I think everyone here would understand it, you're an extraordinary human being. And you have brought something to this experience that we have here that we will all take with us. I personally know that I'm a better person and more capable than I was before, having had the opportunity to work with you. So thank you for that. Thank you for that honor. And you will truly be missed. And I hope you stay in touch. Thank you. So with that, we'd like to ask you to come forward and receive a certificate of appreciation and a gift from Kathy and I and the municipality and the board. I'm glad you read through this. Halifax Board of Police Commissioners, I can't read.
So when I applied for Home Depot,
If I don't win the election, I want a job. Halifax Board of Police Commissioners extends sincere appreciation to Chief Superintendent Jeffrey Christie, RCMP Halifax Detachment, for your contribution to policing in HRM during your tenure as Chief for RCMP. Your dedication, passion for policing, and commitment to public safety is appreciated. Congratulations on your retirement, and all the best in the next year. Okay. Back to work. All right, so we now have gone through 1.1. Let's move on to 2. Are there any community announcements? Anything people need to share with the board? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Really quickly, just to acknowledge the passing of Jerry White. If folks are not familiar, he was a gentleman who was a huge supporter of serving members, former RCMP officer, passed away September 12th, 2024. And he also was the guy that on the top of his vehicle had the little RCMP bear that would wave to officer anytime he went by. So sad to hear that he passed away. He was always a guy who, if you were at an event and you needed someone to sing the national anthem, he'd put his hand up and say, "I'll do it." So just want to acknowledge his passing as also being somebody who was a huge supporter of our serving members.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Jerry will very much be missed and was known by probably much of HRM. He certainly will be missed. Are there any others? No. We now need approval of the minutes for September 4th, 2024. Moved by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Giles. Any questions on that? No. I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Now have the approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. And we have a request for an added item that requires 2/3 majority consent for members. No, we don't have that. Are there any additions or deletions, Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, there are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Thank you. Business arising into the minutes, there are none. Call for declarations of conflict.
Excuse me, Chair, we need to have the order of business approved.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Blackburn for the order of business to be approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Now moving on to number 6, call for declaration of conflict of interest. Seeing and hearing none, move to consideration of deferred business. 7.1, off-duty and extra-duty employment policy. We have, Josh, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Policy Advisor, Josh Bates.
Thank you, Chair. Josh Bates, Policing Policy Strategist. As commissioners know, this item has been deferred, so I think it'd be helpful if I just briefly go through some of the differences between extra duty, off duty, and overtime. So first, starting with extra duty is any police-related duty other than that provided by the municipality. So think police officers at grocery stores or at special events such as the Blue Nose. Importantly, it should be noted that extra duty officers are not paid by taxpayers, but by the business or organization that is requesting that extra duty deployment. So moving on to off duty, this involves activities or undertakings by members while not on duty. So for example, some members might run a business while they're not on duty, and the Police Act does list a number of prohibited off-duty activities. Finally, overtime, I think that's self-explanatory. That's separate from both. That is simply when an officer is asked to stay beyond their scheduled shift. So there have been a few changes since this item first appeared on the agenda. So I'll just quickly go through some of those. First, there's in the original version, there's reference to a communications plan explaining the role of extra duty officers. That has been removed from the policy itself, I think quite appropriately. And you'll see that that will appear as a separate motion that could be passed if commissioners think that's a good idea. And I think from a staffing perspective, I think this is important because I'm not sure how well known it is in the public that extra duty officers are not paid by taxpayers. So that's the kind of thing that I think it could benefit from a communications plan. Secondly, a clause has been removed that members attend a briefing on each extra duty assignment. And lastly, the reporting requirements and the off-duty policy have been removed. Other than that, the attachments remain the same. And I'd welcome any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any questions for Josh? Commissioner Smith?
Can you just really quickly, thank you, Josh, for the update. Can you just clarify again the potential of having a motion or some direction I kind of missed what you were referencing.
Okay, yes. So I think I believe you're referring to the communications plan. Yeah, so the original policy on extra duty referenced a communications plan explaining what extra duty policing is. And after some discussion, it was determined that while that may be a good idea, it doesn't belong in the policy itself. So the compromise was we remove it from the policy, but we have a separate motion that would create that communications plan.
Okay, I believe we have some amendments that might come forward. Commissioner Giles, are you putting those forward?
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe Vice Chair Giles is going to speak to those.
Yes, are we going to put them up?
Okay. There we go.
So here's the motion that's currently on the floor from our August 7th meeting. Do you want to put your mic on? Sorry. So here's the motion that's currently on the floor from our August 7th meeting. And then there are some friendly amendments here that Commissioner Giles is going to speak to.
I'm not going to speak to them so much as I'm going to read them into the record, as it were. The friendly amendment comes in two parts. Part one of the motion be amended to include attachments 1 and 2 of the revised staff report dated July 18th, 2024. And part two included to read now, direct the Chief of Halifax Regional Police to develop and implement a communications plan to help address the public's understanding around the role of extra duty officers policing private entities, including the fact that the cost of extra duty deployment is borne by the private company or organization requesting the service. And that's, of course, all as Mr. Bates has defined for us this afternoon. And I'm happy to move that friendly amendment.
Is there a seconder? Any questions? No? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Now, the main motion will need to be split. We're going to split those into three. So we can read the whole entire motion, but we can have them.
No, in terms of if you want to vote on each motion separately, we'll do them one at a time.
And a separate mover and seconder in each case?
No, because where the motion that's on the floor has been friendly amended, we don't need a new mover or seconder. It's just the individual votes.
Okay, so we'll read them for the publics.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, if you wish.
Yes, so for the first vote, the Board of Police Commissioners for Halifax Regional Municipality adopt in principle, subject to a period of public comment, the revised extra duty and off-duty policies for inclusion in the Board of Police Commissioners Policy Manual as outlined in attachments 1 and 2 of the revised staff report dated July 18th, 2024. Madam Clerk, do we just
You just carry on with the vote as you
Okay.
normally would. Just ask for yays and nays.
Does anyone get to offer any comment or question if they have it?
If they wish.
Yeah. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner O'Malley.
Just a question, in terms of the period of public comment, did we put an end date on that, that it's to terminate by a certain date? Kind of left open. Or is that okay?
We could amend it if you'd like. Would it not be reasonable, though, that if we did when, if this passes and we do the period, would we not then create a period based on when we choose to do it?
I
feel like that's an
I would-
internal.
I would suggest you might want to
Decision.
ask Josh about that period of
Yeah.
time.
Josh, how do you envision that?
This was originally, this originally went forward in the summer. So the reason it's worded that way was because, we had the meeting in August, and hypothetically, if this was passed in August, that might not be the best time to post something online. Of course, now we're into the fall, we have the municipal election. So I think we could have a conversation around when would be the best time, but I was thinking roughly a month, we would post it online through the clerk's office. But it would be at the commission's discretion if you'd wanted to have a specific, timeline in terms of when that would be posted. But I was thinking around a month.
Marty?
Well, you could put a time in here, or with the agreement of the board, it could be left up to the chair at the time to decide what's appropriate, because there are many things at play at the moment.
Okay, so we'll just leave, then I think what I'm hearing is that we will leave it as it's worded now. Excuse me. Okay. Any further questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Number 2, direct the Chief of Halifax Regional Police to develop and implement a communication plan to help address the public's understanding around the role of extra duty officers policing private entities, including the fact that the cost of extra duty employment is borne by the private company or organization requesting the service.
Second.
I think we already had it. Yeah. Any questions on that? Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. So just to go back to the part related to the communications plan, is it something that we could kind of capture in the notes and maybe just note that there will be, if this gets approved, that there'll be some communications of the policy? I'm happy to add a motion, but I think, I don't know. I'm assuming, which I shouldn't do, but I would think it'd be good to just do a communication plan anyway. But I'm just like looking at maybe the chief or whoever else, like, do we need to give direction, or is it something that could just be, communicated to the public? Hey, this is our policy, this is how it works.
Our legal advisor would like to speak to it.
Yeah.
Marty?
So originally, this was in the policy,
Right.
right? And we felt it was a one-off, didn't need to stay in a policy
Yeah.
forever. And because of that, I think the chief had that concern at the time. So discussion with the chief said, well, we could make this a direction, and then we've got it in the record and dispose of it that way. It could be done the way you're suggesting too, but
Well, I'll just look at the chief, like, do you need direction, or is it just something that you could just take on?
To the counselor, I'm easy either way. I know, I believe there was an understanding or a belief that it needed to be captured somewhere in some sort of direction, but either way, we can, whatever is best for.
Well, I'll just ask that it be captured in the notes that some communication be made to the public if approved, if that works for our note takers.
Okay, so my understanding is that if you wanted to change it, it would be that would be very different.
No,
than
not
what we're
changing, just
asking.
making, in our notes, acknowledge that a communication plan will be made to communicate to the public of the policy. So not making any changes to the policy itself, just that acknowledging the notes that the chief acknowledged that they're happy to communicate to the public extra duty, off duty.
Yeah, he wants the motion to go ahead.
you want the motion to go ahead.
Yeah, I'm
You're
just,
good with the motion, and you want the notes on time.
yes, the notes are just in the minutes, captured in the minutes, not,
Okay.
no official, yeah.
And I think if I'm probably hearing this correctly, I think it's around the accountability piece as well, right? So if we approve this motion, it's a record, and therefore we would be asking, we would have every right and expectation, responsibility to follow up with the chief if it's not forthcoming, right? But we have to give them time to do the development of the plan. And if for any reason there's some debate over whether or not it's public, we could always address it then, could we not? Yeah. Okay, so are there any further questions around number 2? Nope, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. And number 3, recommend that Halifax Regional Council request the mayor to write a letter to the Minister of Justice to consider the appointment of trained municipal staff as special constables to provide traffic direction at special events. Are there any questions or comments on that? No, it's pretty clear. Long overdue, I would agree. I think that this is I'll speak to it. I think this is another example of the climate for this board to be ready for change and to advocate for change and to move the needle. And this is very specific. This could make a big difference, I believe, to the serving forces that we are here responsible for. So I would ask that we approve, that you support it. Chief, did you want to? Okay, thank you. So, hearing nothing else, I'll call the question. All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Okay. Chief McLean?
Yeah, to the chair, I just want to point out that it is loud, isn't it? Is these are the board's policies. So our policies will be obviously aligned, but different. So I envision our communications plan will come after our policies are actually completed that are reflective of those, just to be clear. And the second point I just want to make out, which is kind of appropriate for today, is that you will see a media release today about an individual that was arrested downtown yesterday, threatening people with a knife and around City Hall, actually, in terms of they were arrested by extra duty officers that were working at the Halifax Convention Center at a privately funded defense event. So I just want to point out that the value of having extra duty officers is real.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward now at 7.2, and this one is for me to give a summary for the record of the 2024 Canadian Association of Police Governance Annual Conference. So I'd like to start out, excuse me, that was in August. I'd like to start out with acknowledging that we had tremendous coverage of attendees. I think everyone here on the board was able to attend, which is extraordinary. And from what I've heard, that doesn't happen very often. The other piece of this is that our chiefs both attended and participated in the actual event. So I want to acknowledge that. All of the delegates expressed their profound joy at being able to come back to the city, and many of them expressed that their expectations were well surpassed the experience. There's a special thanks from our Commissioner Yemi Akindoju, who is not able to attend, but he's a commissioner, thanking the volunteers that were part of the planning from our board, Carol McDougall, a former board member, HRM staff, and CAO Kathy O'Toole for their sponsorship and support for the work that we hope to have achieved at the conference and in a hosting capacity. Yemi expresses thanks to myself as the chair. We should also acknowledge that as I said, both chiefs spoke. They spoke at the opening remarks along with the mayor and CA. Did you speak on that one, CAO? No? Yeah? Minister Justice?
I can't remember.
I know, it's been a while. We also had the pleasure of a keynote speaker for the opening with Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard, and that was very well received. As always, she does a tremendous senator and spokesperson for our area and for the work that she does. Some of the major items and takeaways from the actual conference were around the need for cultural change and evolution through various aspects of policing, which we're well aware of, policing to improve recruitment and staffing, recruitment engagement and staffing. So that's a common theme that we have had around our table in our strategic priorities, but also it was reflected in the larger conversation of boards across the country. The other is the importance that was reflected there, the importance of collaboration with all levels of government, particularly around the effectiveness and success that in the handling of our unhoused folks in our cities, encampments, and mental health challenges that often add to the complexities of some of those situations. So again, that's a theme and an experience that is happening across the country. It's not unique to our city, but I can say that people at the conference made a point of speaking to the effectiveness and the learning that had happened in the Halifax approaches to and changes from that learning to unhoused and folks who are in encampments and mental health. And of course, that has expanded since then. Other area was around adequate board training and funding with appropriate staff to include effective communications, which we've danced around that in a number of ways. We were able to share at the conference the support that we've received from the council, Halifax Regional Council, on more support for this board in the way of funding for specialties, our policy analyst, around other things, independent reviews and such. So they were impressed with that. It was good to hear. Some boards are fully funded. Others are moving in the direction that we are. We are, again, still the unique board here in that we are oversight for HRP and advisory for RCMP, but that blend is becoming stronger and stronger. And it was a really nice environment for us to have that conversation, because the people are watching across the country are watching what's happening here in Halifax. Policing transformation and using evidence-based information and innovative technology solutions was part of the larger conversation, body-worn cameras in particular, which would be around leading to trust and accountability. So that, again, there's conversations that we're having. Best practices to reduce costs by applying successful and practical solutions, for example. One big example that we could learn from was indicated, sort of iterated a number of times, was the Peel Regional Police experience. Strategic methods of evaluating officers and health conditions, taking proactive and consistent health measures and methods to making sure our officers are well served and healthy. So finally, collaboration between chiefs and ranking officers and the board to provide effective communication management and understanding of policing requirements. I think today, much of the conversation that we had in the presentations and such really spoke to that. And so although we've made great gains here at our municipality, again, those kinds of gaps are across the country, and it's time for those to be brought together, is what we were hearing. Attendance in police at community activities, board visits to the police environment, ride-alongs, etc., were all part of the narrative on how to create those connectivities. So overall, I think it was a great success to host that event, to learn from people that we had the opportunities to speak to. And I would highly recommend that if Halifax had the opportunity to do it again, that it was very beneficial. This year's was also back-to-back with the Police Association, Police Chiefs, I think, Canadian Association of Police Chiefs conference. So that was another draw for the attendance level. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions on that? It's mostly for information purposes. Nope. Okay. Okay, we'll now move on to correspondence number 8.11, correspondence. Is there anything that in the way of correspondence, Madam Clerk?
Chair Kent, the clerk's office received no correspondence for this meeting.
Thank you. Do any members have any petitions to present? Hearing none. And there are no presentations and no information items brought forward. We now would ask at 10.1, Halifax Regional Police and RCMP, Halifax Detachment can do their regular updates. So I'll start with not acting anymore, Chief Don McLean. Swearing in soon, that's right.
I may have noticed that, actually.
Did you notice that?
So to the board and everyone watching, and everyone here today, I want to start off from an investigative perspective. On the 17th of September, we announced charges in the Devin Marsman homicide case. As you're probably well aware, Mr. Marsman was a 16-year-old, went missing in 2022. We held a press conference that day. It was attended by Commissioner Giles, which we appreciate, and where we announced charges against an adult male and a young offender at that time. Just last week, an additional arrest was made for a 23-year-old female who's going to court facing charges of accessory as well as obstruction and indignity human remains. So we now have charged 3 people. The investigation is continuing, and we continue to implore people, if they have any information, to please provide it to us. And lastly, obviously, we continue to send our sincere condolences to the family of Mr. Marsman. On September 11th, investigators also charged a 34-year-old male with attempted murder in relation to a shooting which occurred in the north end of Halifax on Rosemead Avenue. If you recall, that was the first day of school, which created a bit of angst. So my thanks to the investigative team for their efforts in that particular case. That evening on the 11th as well, the patrol members, with great initiative and effort, executed a warrant in an area near the bridge on Barrington Street. Recovered 3 firearms, quantity of stolen goods, illegal drugs, e-bikes, generators, and a lot of other material. Again, great work by the patrol members who took on that particular task. This past weekend was Dalhousie Homecoming, and I want to, extend my thanks to the team. I was out of town, which I'll speak of later, but I want to extend my thanks to the team, particularly Inspector Shediak and Staff Sergeant Joanne Sweeney from PSU for their planning in that particular event. It is not uncommon for the chief to receive correspondence after Dalhousie Homecoming from the residents in the area. And in this particular occasion, which I shared with the chair and the CAO, it was very complimentary to the planning and participation of the Halifax Regional Police, along with some of the things DAL and HRM bylaw had done to make for a very safe management of that particular event. So again, I'm extremely grateful for their efforts in that particular area. We've come a long way from me standing at the street at midnight dodging bottles. But anyway, and I know I've talked about it a lot over the last little bit, but our 2025 cadet class actually started yesterday. We have 24 cadets. I had the opportunity to meet with all of them and speak with all of them yesterday. I was quite impressed by their breadth of diverse background and experience, and look forward to spending the next 38 weeks, is it? 38 weeks with them, and wish them well on their journey forward. I want to thank, obviously, Acting Deputy Simmons and his team from HR and those down at HRM as well for their efforts going forward. Taking a lot of time and dedication from a lot of people to get that up and running. And as well, on this September 23rd, I also swore in 5 new officers that were experienced police officers from across the country, and we look forward to bringing them into the fold. And as well, we will be continuing those efforts going forward. So things are progressing and moving ahead. From a traffic perspective, HRP officers issued 824 summary offense tickets in the last month. There were 41 investigations for impaired driving. And the focus this month from the traffic unit, who I seen walking around here, have they moved in there? Yeah, so they just moved in the office across the street to get a bit of a more presence in this downtown area, is on Intersection Safety Month. As you're all aware, October is now Mi'kmaq History Month, and we are proudly flying the flag of the Mi'kmaq Grand Council in front of our headquarters, and in our support of the Mi'kmaq people, whose traditional lands we are all on. I want to particularly take note of Elder Debbie Eisen, who was gracious enough to provide the smudging ceremony yesterday for all of the cadets at our headquarters, and as well invited myself and Deputy Simmons to a nice lunch of wild salmon at the Mi'kmaq Friendship Center yesterday. So, and as well, like I said, on the weekend, I was in Ottawa with a number of our officers, sworn, civilian, and retired, joining thousands of other officers from across the country marching in Ottawa in relation to the Falling Officers National Memorial. Always a solemn occasion, but thankfully the roll call was very much smaller than it was in the last few years. But I certainly pay respects to the RCMP officer who was acknowledged that was murdered in PC last year. And we also want to, in that same vein, invite everyone to the 42nd annual Nova Scotia Fallen Police Officers Memorial, which will take place on October 20th. We will be back in Parade Square where the memorial is. We will march from Halifax Regional Police down to the Grand Parade, and we hope to see everyone there. I want to extend my thanks to Jeff for his invitation to the regimental dinner last week with the RCMP. And finally, just say, Jeff, thanks for all your support and hard work over the bet. And just know at the end of the day, we'll always remain friends, buddy. Yeah. All right. Sir, comment.
Thank you, Chief. Great update. Just related to, are we saying the homicide of Devin Marsman at this point?
Yes.
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 There was some communication by HRP saying for folks to not speculate online, and because one of the folks who've been charged was a minor at the time. I was wondering if we can just talk about the importance of that information being left to the people investigating and doing.
Yes, clearly.
court.
Obviously, you know, in cases like this, particularly ones that take on such a significant public interest, there's lots of information which gets out there, some of which may be accurate, some of which isn't. But at the end of the day, in this particular case, investigators charged a person with a serious offense who at the time of that offense was a young offender. And because of that, are statutorily barred from providing any personal information on that person. That not only extends to the police department, but it extends to individuals as well outside the police department, and they put themselves in potential personal jeopardy if they step outside of that.
Right, and that's what I wanted you,
Yeah.
just so folks know, like there are not penalties, what's what I'm looking for, consequences
Yes.
if you do.
Penalties work too, but
Right.
yes, but there are consequences potentially. Yes.
Chief Christie.
Chair, good afternoon. Just a few quick comments, and maybe I'll start with, in no particular order. Chief McLean mentioned the Halifax Regional Detachment POW that was held at Oak Island, that we had the pleasure of His Worship Mayor Savage, Chief Administration Officer as a keynote speaker, and yourself as a speaker. And it was an honor to have Mr. Bill Moore present. It was an honor to have Deputy Chief Dave Meldrum present, and of course, Don McLean. The dinner, the time, the themes of the day, which some of you spoke at, the team had determined that the most important theme was sort of employee wellness and mental health. And so there was very significant, sometimes painful conversations about some of the experiences employees have, but also resiliency in the path forward. So it was a remarkable 2 days, and our attendance went probably up by 25 or 28% compared to the first one 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And so again, it was a remarkable day, and thank you to the team behind me and the folks here that helped attend that and make it this special evening. And Bill, I will mention for the records how much I've appreciated your guidance and your team's guidance here in the last my time. And of course, Don McLean. I'll be there for Don McLean, texting him when he's in the police board meeting in case he's stuck for any questions. You can text me, Don. We'll switch to Councillor Comstat. Halifax hosted again, and I personally think there needs to be a better name, but it's really an orientation session for some of the trends that are happening, particularly in the areas that we provide core policing. So what's happening? What does that trend look like? How are we socializing that to councillors like Councillor Blackburn, and taking away an honest conversation about the future? The feedback again has been very positive. But what's also interesting, which is sort of in our submission, is calls for service in many areas continue to show sort of a return to higher levels. So, there's still a very high demand for police services, often in many of those areas. Sometimes we talk about, and it's an interest to the board, about integration, and some of those are big steps, and some of those are little steps, like the dinner. But a very important step, Don Moser and Staff Sergeant Linda Morrison led, was we hosted the watch commanders of both agencies recently together. And so something that was actually Bill Moore's idea a while back, we're able to bring to fruition, where sort of the people working in the emergency room, I call it, 24/7, and working with the emergency response team leads and the police dog service providers, all the people that make that emergency room, so to speak, on the watches, they spent 2 or 3 hours together talking about, joint responses and so on. And while that connection is always positive and has been positive, those discussions only strengthen and speak again to the renewal that's happening. Certainly a concern in Lower Sackville. Some needles were found by a school, and the disposal of needles may or may not be sort of our core issue from policing, but the community action response team members are working with the school and hopefully compliance and other, given the risk that can pose, and also the fear that can create. A couple other sort of high level notes. September the 21st was the Special Olympics convoy. And I believe Chief McLean and many of his folks, and from the RCMP, many of our folks were there, including Assistant Commissioner Daly and Don Moser representing Halifax. So just a momentous time where the law enforcement community comes together at large for all those trucks that are going through Eastern Passage, right? So what a moment of celebration. September the 21st with the North Preston Community Center 20th anniversary celebration. Community partners, and that was a very remarkable one. Just if I could ask and just pause for 1 second. I'll ask the permission of the chair for Chief McLean to make comment about the MAD event we were both at approximately 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, just I get to the point, you go to so many things, you get to forget some of them. But myself and Jeff and Lyndon were at the MAD Candlelight Vigil, recognizing, remembering those who had been killed by impaired drivers over the last course of many years. It's a very solemn event, for the families to come, to come up when their loved ones' names are read out, and you can still see the pain and the anguish in them for events that may have occurred over 20, 25 years ago. So obviously, the message from that obviously is, do not drive impaired. But certainly, we remember them, and it was my thanks to Constable John McLeod, who's very one of my members, who's very involved in MAD Canada, and thanks for reminding me, Jeff.
And just for the interest of the board, we talk about families. It was Constable McLeod's wife who was the master of ceremonies, and such grace to manage that, and so on and so forth. So there is a memorial that is out towards sort of North Preston up on the hill, which is a very, again, graceful place to visit and take solace. September the 30th was the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and we've talked about the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq. So we continue our journey in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and also we had members attend. Staff Sergeant Prasad of the Northwest Mounted Police and Constable Kendra McKinnon attended the National Memorial on the weekend. That concludes my report. Thank you. Subject to any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions or comments for the chair, for the chief? Sorry. No. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to 10.3.1, Commissioner O'Malley on the province of Nova Scotia's updated standards on policing. So traditionally, Commissioner O'Malley, you would put the motion on the floor so people would know what you're speaking to, and then with a seconder, and then we can have your remarks.
Sure. Did we want to press it up there? Great, thank you. So this motion, apologies. The motion is that the, all good? Very good. That the Board of Police Commissioners for Halifax Regional Municipality requests the Halifax Regional Police and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Halifax Regional Detachment to prepare staff reports assessing compliance of existing police services, related standards, policies, and practices to the province of Nova Scotia's updated standards on policing, including the following. Identify the updated standards to which HRM's policing services are compliant and the areas that HRM policing services are non-compliant with the updated standards. In the case of non-compliance, the report shall detail the nature of the non-compliance to the updated standards, identify any organizational, policy, and/or procedural changes required to achieve compliance with the updated standards, and to develop an implementation plan detailing the resources, the costs, the dependencies, timelines, and associated risks to achieving compliance with the updated standards.
Moved by Commissioner O'Malley, seconded by Commissioner Blackburn. Is there any comments or questions or considerations that the board would like to have? Oh yeah, I didn't give you a chance to speak to it.
Well, just as background, those who may not have read, the province in response to the recommendations from the Mass Casualty Commission came out in mid-September with a series of 39 new standards across 5 different categories. These particular standards involve a variety of categories of recommendations around, or of new standards around emergency management, police investigations, police services, records management, and use of force. And so it's quite exhaustive. It's like a 94-page report. And the purpose of this motion is to try and get an assessment and a gap analysis and what it would take to close the gap to achieve compliance with the standards.
Did you want a timeline attached to that at all?
I don't know. Specify
Maybe the-
timeline.
Maybe the chiefs could offer us a little comment on how, what their turnaround could be potentially, and what would be involved in this?
What I can say through that, I believe the province has directed a 1-year response back to them. Their auditing will start a year from the time of that place. Without, it's difficult to say. I think, we haven't gone through it with a fine tooth comb, but I think in most cases we'll be compliant in most issues as a major policing service in the province. But at the same time, recognizing there is a significant amount of work to it on top of, the encampment review report and some of those other things that will be. So I think there should be a substantial period of time, at which point that certainly if there's anything we'll do our initial first blush. And if there's anything that's truly out of line, that's something we will address quickly, I would suggest, but I don't, foresee that part being too onerous. But I think overall, there should be a significant time period for it.
Chief Christie?
Chair, through you to the commissioner, the only part that I would suggest to the board is in relation to number 3. I'm not so sure getting to sort of a detailed risk analysis in terms of what might need to be modifications might take more time and energy than it's in a pragmatic work, because I do believe both agencies are arguably probably the gold standard in the province for sort of readiness. So I personally believe sort of 1 or 2 are probably the sweet spot, Commissioner. because the other element that I think the board, the police agencies, justice will find is it's not so much are we ready or meeting that goal right now, but if we're not, then how does that collaboratively get figured out with sort of MOUs and other things which take time and multilateral stakeholders to sort of figure out. From the RCMP regional detachment, I feel very much like Chief McLean that our synopsis will leave us in a very good position.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak to that? I would like to just say a couple of things in relation to the last two comments, which both chiefs are indicating that they feel that they're in good standards and a good place regarding the standards. I did have the chance to meet with the Minister of Justice. She also happens to be my MLA and friend, but so it was easy for me to get in to see her. And we discussed the standards coming out, and she was talking about, she mentioned that was relying on the information that Halifax was the leaders in creating the standards and having the standards already in place around the province. It was about lifting them to the similar standard if they can. Of course, they're policing units, and each municipality is a little different in the way of resources and such. But I just wanted to corroborate that. It's often, we think, well, the chiefs would want to be all up to standard. Well, the minister believes so too. So it's a good indicator. I can't speak for the minister, but I can certainly speak to what was conveyed to me. So thank you very much. Any further debate or questions on this motion? Hearing and seeing, one more.
Just a question back to the chief superintendent. Do you think it makes sense to strike from point number 3, the associated risk comment?
Yeah, Chair, through you to the commissioner. Yeah. Personally, I do. I think the primary interest of the board is what's a difference in any particular area. So, for example, alerting, and the Department of Justice actually shared an early version with the executive director. So while alerting from the municipal lane is in all sorts of different it's in the EMO, it's in the municipal, it's in the policing side. So to keep it, what I believe is what the board is interested in, what's the high level snapshot between where we are and where we might need to be. I personally think 3 takes you down a rabbit hole, and you'll get where you need to go with 1 and 2. And it will be easier for staff to prepare the necessary reports.
So just a point of clarification though. So number 3 is about an implementation plan to getting there and whether additional costs are going to be borne. Is it just the comment about the risks that you're concerned about? We should strike that. Well, I think from the RCMP side, the nature of our contract, commissioners, we don't really cost back. So if you imagine body worn cameras, right? So if we look at the granular level, and I don't want to speak for Chief McLean, but I'm confident he has similar sort of reflections, which is if there's a structural piece that needs to be in the pipeline, it's probably already in the pipeline. It's probably already being worked on. So the Chief Administration Officer and Bill Moore are leading lots of meetings on alerting. Right? Not so much from the police lane, but from the totality of it. And so again, if Mr. Moore needs to buy 5 computers, to enter the day, is that really the level? So I think the more, it's just my suggestion is I would strike 3, and then based on what comes back, then assess, do you need a timeline, and then assess, do you need a costing analysis? Otherwise, I think it will come up through more normal channels.
So this would be a sort of a consensus, because it's on the floor, we have the ability to manipulate it a bit. If the members of the commission are all in favor, we could strike number 3 if that's what the mover wants.
I'm fine with striking most of it. I think number 3 though does get at the idea of an implementation plan and timeline. So if cost dependencies and associated risk can be struck, but I think it'd be worthwhile to know how long is it going to take to achieve compliance? Because that's not in number 1 or number 2.
Okay, so could we look at the clerk perhaps amending that to?
How would he?
How would you like it to read?
So develop an implementation plan to achieve compliance with the updated standards. Just leave it at that. You could get rid of
Okay.
detailing. Developing information and achieve compliance with the updated standards.
Is everyone okay with that? A mover and seconder? Yeah, members? Okay, anything further? Okay, question all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, we have no edit items? And we have no in-camera items specifically, although we do have minutes. Would anyone like to move the minutes? 12.1, Commissioner Blackburn moves
Second.
the minutes of September 4th, 2004 in-camera items. Seconded by Commissioner Giles. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion, Madam Clerk?
That would be up to the commissioners if they have
Okay.
any notices of motion.
Any notices? Nope. Hearing none, the next date of the next meeting is November 20th, 2024. And unless someone else has anything to offer, we need a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Giles. Thank you very much for everyone's indulgence today. Wishing you all the best.